is I'm letting somebody else come in behind me and put in the newest, best thing. And as a result, they're going to knock me out of the saddle right away because the experience is so much better. I'll pay extra money for the better experience.
Speaking about costs and efficiency inside an FEC, how does somebody price an attraction after purchasing it?
Well, there's several ways to do that, and you've got the traditional way, which is not always the right way to do it, and I'll start with that one. The first thing that most people do is say, okay, what is the competition in town doing? If I don't have that competition, what is the competition in the next city over doing? Or the next one in the next county over, the next state over, somewhere moving out until I find somebody and say, okay, they're charging $8 a piece of an attraction. That sounds like a pretty viable way to do it. The problem is, if I brought something different to the equation, a better quality attraction, why would I, and I'll use this case again because we're primarily go-karts, why would I charge my high-tech Mario experience video game racing game that's in real live go-kart the same price as the guy that has 30-year-old gas carts down the street that don't have anywhere the speed, the fun, the dynamics, and all the other options that we're bringing to the table? That's kind of silly. I mean, most theaters today, when they get a prime movie in, they don't charge the same price as the one that only 20 people saw last week. They kick it up a notch. If they got stadium seats, they kick it up a notch. If they got the recliners, they kick it up a notch. And people will pay for that experience, but you're giving away net profit if you don't consider that on the input side. I can buy the cheap VR, I can buy the good VR, I can buy the cheap go-kart, I can buy the good go-kart. The problem with getting the last year's or last decade's model is I'm letting somebody else come in behind me and put in the newest, best thing. And as a result, they're going to knock me out of the saddle right away because the experience is so much better. I'll pay extra money for the better experience. I don't want to pay a little extra money to get the old crappy experience. So you got to look at both those sides. What is the market doing? And then do I need to step back and say, okay, I'm going to invest better than, on the better end of the scale on the product and then charge more and assume that that's going to get that money because it's a better quality experience. And the vendors can usually help tell you that. And it has been very much the case. I had a customer years ago that complained about having 3-hour waits to ride his go-karts. And the problem was he put in our new high-tech electric carts. He had a customer, a competitor literally 2 miles away with 20-year-old gas carts, and he charged the same thing. And I said, look, you've got a premium product. He shot, well, I don't want to give him that advantage. Move that forward 3 years later, he was averaging 100,000 rides a year. He had $2 less than what we had told him up front. He and he had a 3-hour wait. He had people wanting to ride that he didn't have the capacity. 3 years later, the customer's out of business, the competitor's out of business. He's now charging $4 more than he did initially, and he still has an half an hour wait at the same facility with the same number of cars. So that was literally $300,000 to $400,000 in net profit he lost every year by not charging for the product he supplied, instead of just going, oh, that guy charges that price, I'll copy it. That was a huge mistake. I mean, he didn't get some of the business, he got all the business. He had a better product.
Do demographics drive the price up or down depending on the area, town, or even county you're in? I mean, if it's a poor part of the country, do you have to lower prices or raise them depending on this factor?
To a certain extent. I'll give you a couple examples. Here in the United States, California, the cost of housing is triple or quadruple what a same house would cost here in Tennessee. We're still working on the original minimum wage, which is $7.35 here in Tennessee. Now, most businesses in Tennessee have already come up. We charge 10. The least we'll pay anybody is 10 or 12 bucks, even though the minimum wage is $7, just to get a better quality person at our facility. In California, it's been mandated $15 a couple of years ago. So their cost to operate, from taxes, land costs, living expenses, are all much higher than Tennessee. So by necessity, they're going to have to charge more. You get to more regional areas, and in some cases, the 2 million population town is going to get a bit higher price because, once again, their labor costs and their land costs will be higher than the hour away small town of 50 or 100,000, because their land cost and taxes and everything are less, so they can afford to charge a little bit less. So you can, once again, that's where you get feasibility experts in to kind of give you an idea of that. But it's still going to be in a pretty tight range. Here in our country, most of the miniature golf is somewhere between $7 and $12. So that's not a huge difference from one location to the other. And the 12 to, even sometimes 15 or more resort locations in your cities are in that 7 to 12 area. But even the small demographics with the right product can push that up from the base number just by the quality of the attraction they put in. And that's still, once again, going to add to their net profit.
If you're including taxes in your final price or not?
Well, in Europe, they have, in most countries, I think they have a VAT, which just adds on to the equation regardless. In our country, it is the same way. It's not called a VAT because it varies from city to city, county to county, state to state, what the number is. But nearly, not every state, but nearly every state in the country has some kind of sales tax. Back when my dad first started, which was almost 60 years ago, this is our 59th year, at that time, miniature golf in particular would include the tax. Movie theaters would include the sales tax, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem with that, especially in Tennessee where you don't have income tax, that's almost 10% of your ticket price. And since customer A went to the gas station and bought a Slurpee, or went to the grocery store and bought bread, or went to the clothing store and bought a dress, every one of those locations added that 10% to their ticket value. Whatever it showed on the ticket was the cost, and then the tax was added. So they expected. And what we found out was people didn't appreciate when it was included in there because they didn't see it. If I just said, okay, it's $8 plus tax instead of $8 including tax, there's 80 cents that they would have paid that I ate that they said, well, I don't know why, I guess it's no sales tax on mini golf, when that's not the case. So when I said, okay, it's $8 plus tax, they're like, okay, that's normal. So that was a huge additional cost that people were absorbing in our industry that really had no customer appeal. In other words, it's like, oh yeah, they're paying my sales tax for me. No, they didn't appreciate it. They expected to pay it. They made assumptions that were just kind of crazy, like, oh, I guess miniature golf or go-karts don't require sales tax. Yeah, they do. So just add it on there, and that saves you that 10%. And they're not going to complain about it because they're used to paying on everything else they get.